Hi everybody, I'm Scott. And boy, last week I got to go to the Brattle bookshop, the famous Brattle. Had a wonderful time in Boston, had a whole week in Boston. It was just a terrific week. Got to meet some people in person who I consider friends, Steve Donahue, Mark Richardson, and Jason Harrigan. And we did a big collective book haul while we were there. And I thought I'd go through those books that I picked up. I had them shipped out here to Utah, and they arrived in great shape. Yeah, it was terrific. But I thought I could go through them a little slower. So here we go. The first one I have here is A Decade of Fantasy and Science Fiction. This book was published in 1962. Selected by Robert P. Mills, who was the editor at the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction for a good long time. And one of the things that jumped out at me when I was looking through this in the Brattle is there's a story in here by Graham Greene, and it's called Proof Positive. Graham Greene, I this year I read The End of the Affair, and I've read Monsignor Quixote in the past. I haven't read anything else by him. Looking forward to reading The Power and the Glory. That's coming up for me next year. But it's kind of cool to find a story in here by him in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. But there's plenty in here. Zena Henderson, Asimov, Bester, Anthony Boucher. There's a story by Robert P. Mills, Ward Moore, Mildred Klingerman, Robert F. Young, Manly Wade Wellman. Yeah, it's a very cool collection. So here's the back if you're interested there. So yeah, that one. And then I picked up this Reader's Guide to Fantasy. I've had the Reader's Guide to Science Fiction. And this is a collection of essays and such from about fantasy. And the book was published in 1982. Baird Seals, Beth Meacham, and Michael Franklin. I know Beth Meacham was an editor at Tor for a really long time. And but anyway, there's the back there. It's mentioning Robert E. Howard. See, it says Robert E., Howard Phillips, J.R.R. and Company. Profiles of hundreds of authors whose works, both established and classics and exciting new arrivals, are currently available in 1982. So, but anyway, I was pleased to find this. I enjoy that. Here's one by Kate Wilhelm, Where Late the Sweet Bird Sang. This is a book I have not read. I do like Kate Wilhelm quite a bit, but this won the Nebula Award for Best Novel, and it happens to be, according to Locus, the best novel about cloning written to date. And when is to date? To date is 1977. It says part one of this book first appeared in Orbit 13 in 1974. And here it is. Yeah, so very much looking forward to that. It's just one I haven't ever read. So good stuff. This one by Walter Tevis, The Steps of the Sun. Walter Tevis is an author I like, but I've only read one novel of his. It's Mockingbird. And Mockingbird is an absolutely terrific novel. It's about a robot in the far future. As society crumbled, this robot just keeps going and is in Manhattan, if I remember right. But this one, The Steps of the Sun, Tevis also wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth. And an interesting thing about him, interesting to me anyway, is that he also wrote The Color of Money. He wrote The Hustler. And he wrote The Queen's Gambit. And those have all been made into movies, so outside of science fiction. So these two were kind of a cool find. These are Author's Choice Monthly, Charles DeLint. I've never seen these in a bookstore before. And then I have the Author's Choice Monthly, Joe R. Lansdale. And these were kind of a cool find because, this is within reach. Ugh. I've got this one here by William F. Wu, and it's the same thing here. This one's an autographed copy, but this is also an Author's Choice Monthly. it doesn't have a number on it. Oh, issue 28. So I have 28, 22, and 18. So I have more to find, but they'll kind of be fun to find. But this is quite good. The Wong's Lost and Found Emporium is a really good story by William F. Wu. But anyway, I like Charles de Lint. I like Joe R. Lansdale, so it was kind of cool to find. This Author's Choice Monthly was published by Pulp House Publishing from Eugene, Oregon. And clearly they have at least 28 volumes. Charles de Lint's is called Hedgework and Guessery. That's the title there. It's very cool. And they're in perfect condition. This is nice. And this one's called Stories by Mama Lansdale's Youngest Boy. So, good stuff. Yep. Excuse me. A History of Astronomy is the next one. I was really pleased to find this. This is a subject I like quite a bit. Something that I continually return to. I'm just fascinated by astronomy and the history of astronomy. So this was kind of neat to find by A. Pannecock. And yeah, this was published in, let's see, 1961. This is actually the second imprint, 1969, but anyway, this is cool. It's a history of astronomy. You know, sometimes if you read an astronomy book from years and years ago, it doesn't include, you know, the latest findings and all that kind of stuff. But this is a history book, so really interested in that. You know, part 1, astronomy in the ancient world. Part 2, astronomy and revolution. And part 3, astronomy surveying the universe. And of course, there would be plenty of chapters to write since 1961. But anyway, I'm going to enjoy this quite a bit. I read a little bit of it there in the Brattle, and yeah, just really happy with it. There's some astronomy stuff. Very good. Oh, next I have Memoir by Frederik Pohl. Frederik Pohl is an author I like. I really like Gateway by him. But this was kind of a cool find there. But Frederik Pohl's memoir, and there's kind of a neat thing here on the inner flap. It says, in this book you will find what Isaac Asimov was like at 19, the truth behind the Great World SF Convention War of 1939, how a teenager became a mover and shaker in the bizarre world of the pulp magazines, the strange mating rights of the SF community, how to represent most of the best SF writers and go broke, the dreams of new worlds and universes behind a body of completely original writing that has enlarged the horizons of 3 generations of readers and netted the writers a half-cent to 3 cents a word. Love it. I'm really looking forward to this. The last piece of I would say science fiction history that I've read was Astounding by Alec Navalny. And then the last biography I read was A Lit Fuse about Harlan Ellison. And I can't recall the writer or the author of that, but that was super interesting stuff. Here is Man in His Time, the best science fiction stories of Brian W. Aldiss. He's a British writer, pretty well known. He wrote a nice history of science fiction as well. But anyway, some of his famous ones are Who Can Replace a Man, The Saliva Tree, Super Toys Last All Summer Long. Anyway, it's good stuff. So I'm looking forward to this one. Lots of good stories in there. Man in His Time. And let's see. Okay, here it is. The Avram Davidson Treasury. This was a great find. I mean, this book is just in absolute perfect condition. It's a collection of Avram Davidson's stories. The story he's probably most famous for is Or All the Seas with Oysters, which is a really good story. And this is edited by Robert Silverberg and Grania Davis. And there's Afterwards here by Ray Bradbury and Harlan Ellison. But yeah, I like, some of these tour anthologies. There was one, I had one by Greg Bear, the collected stories of Greg Bear, but I like how they line him up. He's got a section from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and then the 80s and the 90s. And so, yep, looking forward to this one. Avram Davidson. And then I have this one here, In the House of Brede. I was thrilled to find this. This book is in terrific condition. Really nice. In the House of Brede. So, this is a story of a monastery with Benedictine nuns. And Philippa Talbot is the main character. And I remember the book opening with her sort of closing out her life as she gets ready to move to a contemplative life and a life of service in a monastery, in a Benedictine monastery. And I do remember the last time I read this, I learned that Rumer Godden had written a book, I think it was called Black Narcissus. Yeah, here's a list, Black Narcissus, which had to do with nuns as well. But in this book, she was doing something very different. She wanted to portray the lives of these nuns in a realistic way and sort of show what it was really like to be a nun in a Benedictine monastery. So I really enjoyed it. I'm thrilled to find a permanent copy. I just love this cover. It's terrific. Really, really good. Stack's getting tall over here. All right, now this one, I like Stephen Jay Gould. I have a book or two of his essays and a book called Wonderful Life that he wrote. And this is the Book of Life, an illustrated history of the evolution of life on Earth. And Stephen Jay Gould, it says, so he's the general editor of this. He didn't write the whole book, but it's got an introduction by him, and then there's a whole list of contributing scientists and illustrators. And it's just a very cool book. I'm looking forward to going through that. A lot to learn in here. I think it's from 2001. If I remember right, I did look at the date, 2001. So, yeah, it's a nice book. So, yeah, here's Evolution of the Horse. Ooh. Very nice. Good stuff. Put that one back over here. All right, so that's everything that I picked up from the Brattle. And again, absolutely terrific. But one day, Jason Harrigan and his brother and I went to Salem, Massachusetts. And there was some famous stuff that happened there. I picked this book up there. We went to there's a witch museum, and we went there. But I picked up this book, The Penguin Book of Witches. And it's pretty cool. It's got, I've read a little bit of it so far, but it's got, there's warrants for arrest. There's letters from various people. So it's got a section, English antecedents, and then some stuff from the early colonies, and then some stuff from Salem, and then some stuff after Salem. And, but anyway, kind of a cool book to have. Here's a sample title, Warrant for the Apprehension of Sarah Good and Officer's Return, Monday, February 29, 1692. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. But that's that. Edited by Catherine Howe. Penguin. And then who knew that there was a really nice comic shop in that place? In between all the kitschy witch stores and stuff, there was a really large comic shop, and went in there and browsed that, and I picked this one up. This is Earthdivers by Stephen Graham Jones. This is actually volume 2. And I read a couple of the issues of volume 1, but I didn't have the bound. I actually have, I think I have issue 1 and issue 2 of the individual comics, but here's Earthdivers. This is volume 1, which I picked up since I got home to go with this volume 2. This is Earthdivers Kill Columbus, by Stephen Graham Jones. And it's about in the future. I think the year is 2100 something. There's a group of indigenous people that find a time portal, and they've decided that America is where the world went wrong. So they go back in time to try to correct stuff. A very common science fiction trope, but in the hands of Stephen Graham Jones, this is everything I've read so far has just been really great. So this one's called Earthdivers Kill Columbus. Look at that art. It's just awesome. And then this one, also great art. Earthdivers Ice Age. It's volume 2. Very cool. Well, I think I've run out of books. That ought to be enough to read for a little bit anyway. Again, it was just a wonderful time. Thanks to all those guys at the Brattle, the folks at the Brattle. I really enjoyed that entire trip. Thanks again, Steve, Mark, Jason. Just a wonderful time was had. So all very best, everybody. Talk to you soon.